The day my own sister stood in family court and called me an unfit mother, I honestly thought I'd already lost my son. What she didn't know was that the judge had already reviewed one document she'd spent nearly a year hoping no one would ever see. My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 35 years old, and I live just outside Columbus, Ohio, with my 7-year-old son Noah. 5 years ago, my husband Ben was killed by a drunk driver on his way home from work. One phone call changed everything. From that day on, every decision I made revolved around one person, my little boy. Life wasn't easy. I worked full-time as an office manager at a dental clinic, picked Noah up from after-school care every evening, cooked dinner, helped with homework, and tucked him into bed before sitting at the kitchen table to pay bills. We didn't have the biggest house. We didn't take expensive vacations, but Noah had everything he needed. His teachers loved him. He played Little League every spring. He'd never missed a doctor's appointment or a parent-teacher conference. We were doing okay. My younger sister, Melissa, had always been close to us. After Ben died, she helped more than anyone. She watched Noah when I worked late. She came over for dinner almost every Sunday. People constantly told me how lucky I was to have a sister like her. I believed them. Then about 2 years later, Melissa and her husband found out they couldn't have children. I cried with her, sat beside her through doctor visits. I truly felt her pain. But after that, something about her changed. She became unusually attached to Noah. She started calling him my little buddy. She'd buy him expensive gifts after I'd already told her not to. Then one afternoon she looked at me and casually said, "You know, Noah would probably have a more stable life if someone had a little more time for him." I laughed it off, until she asked me to sign papers naming her Noah's legal guardian. "Just in case anything ever happens to you," she said. I politely refused. That was the moment everything changed. She stopped coming over. Family dinners became awkward. Then one Monday morning, a deputy sheriff knocked on my front door. He handed me an envelope from Franklin County Family Court. Inside was a custody petition. My own sister was asking a judge to give her custody of my son. She claimed I worked too much, neglected Noah emotionally, and wasn't fit to raise him alone. I stood in my kitchen reading those pages over and over, not because I believed I'd done anything wrong, but because I couldn't understand how my own sister could write those words about me. I didn't tell Noah. He was sitting at the kitchen table that evening, coloring a picture for school and asking if we could order pizza on Friday. I smiled and said yes. There was no way I was going to let a 7-year-old carry the weight of an adult problem. The next morning, I met with a family law attorney named Karen Ellis. She'd practiced family law in Columbus for over 20 years. She read the custody petition from beginning to end without saying a word. Finally, she closed the file and looked at me. "Rachel, has Child Protective Services ever removed Noah from your home? No. Have you ever been arrested? No. Has Noah ever missed school because of neglect? Never." She nodded. "Good." Then she said something I'll never forget. Family court isn't about who tells the saddest story. It's about who can prove the truth. For the next 3 weeks, that's exactly what we did. Karen asked me to bring every record I had. Noah's report cards, attendance records, medical records, letters from his teacher, photos of our home, my work schedule, tax returns, even receipts showing I'd paid for his baseball league and summer science camp. Every document told the same story. Noah was healthy, happy, doing well in school. Then, 2 days before the hearing, Karen called. "Can you come to my office? I just received Melissa's evidence." The moment I walked in, I knew something had changed. Karen slid a thick folder across the desk. Before any custody hearing, both sides have to exchange evidence through discovery. She opened the folder. "Your sister submitted text messages, photographs, and a written statement." Then she paused, but she also turned over something she probably didn't expect would matter. She handed me another document. At the top it read, "Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, Child Protective Services." My heart started racing. "I've never seen this before." Karen nodded. "You wouldn't have." She explained that nearly a year earlier, someone had filed an anonymous report claiming Noah was being neglected. The report said I left him home alone, that I drank heavily, that my house wasn't safe for a child. Every single accusation was false. A social worker had investigated. She interviewed Noah at school, visited our home, spoke with his teacher, pediatrician, and neighbors. The investigation was closed less than 48 hours later. The official finding read, "All allegations unfounded. Child is healthy, safe, and thriving in his mother's care." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Then Karen turned to the final page. "This is why your sister is in trouble. The intake report wasn't anonymous anymore, because Melissa herself had included it as part of her evidence. At the bottom of the file, the original reporting party was clearly identified. Melissa Carter. I stared at the page. I never knew she called CPS. Karen quietly nodded. I don't think she expected this report to help you. Then she looked me straight in the eyes. Rachel, the judge received every exhibit yesterday. He has already reviewed this file. For the first time since this started, I wasn't scared anymore. I realized something. Melissa was walking into court believing she controlled the story, without realizing the evidence had already started telling a very different one. The hearing began at 9 o'clock sharp. Franklin County Family Court wasn't anything like the television shows. There were no dramatic speeches. No shouting. Just a quiet courtroom. A judge with a thick case file. 2 attorneys. And 2 sisters sitting on opposite sides of the room. Judge William Harper entered, greeted both attorneys, and opened the file that had been submitted several days earlier. Melissa's attorney spoke first. He argued that Noah needed more stability. He said I worked long hours. That Melissa had become a second mother. Then Melissa took the witness stand. She looked calm, confident, almost rehearsed. She folded her hands and looked at the judge. Your Honor, I love my nephew like he's my own son. I'm not here because I hate my sister. I'm here because Noah deserves a better life. She described me as exhausted. Too busy, emotionally overwhelmed after losing my husband. Then she said the sentence that made my stomach turn. I honestly don't believe Rachel is a fit mother anymore. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Harper didn't interrupt. He simply listened. When Melissa finished, my attorney stood. She didn't argue with a single accusation. Instead, she walked to the podium and said, Your Honor, before calling our first witness, I'd ask the court to consider Exhibit 14, which has already been filed. Judge Harper nodded. I've already reviewed it. Melissa didn't react. She had no idea what Exhibit 14 contained. The judge picked up the CPS investigation report. Mrs. Carter, he said calmly, isn't it true that 11 months ago, you personally reported your sister to Child Protective Services? Melissa froze. Yes. And those allegations were fully investigated? Yes. Judge Harper looked down at the report. The investigator interviewed Noah, visited Mrs. Morgan's home, reviewed school and medical records, and found every allegation to be unfounded. He looked back at Melissa. So why does today's custody petition repeat many of those same allegations as, if they were established facts? Melissa hesitated. I still believed Noah would be better with me. Judge Harper remained calm. Family court doesn't remove children because someone believes they could be a better parent. It removes children when evidence shows they're unsafe. He closed the CPS report and opened another document. Mrs. Morgan's school records show perfect attendance. Her son's teacher describes him as happy, respectful, and emotionally secure. His pediatrician reports no concerns. He paused. Every independent record before this court supports one conclusion. Noah is safe, healthy, and thriving in his mother's care. Then he looked directly at Melissa. This court also finds that you previously made allegations that were investigated and determined to be false. That history seriously affects the credibility of the claims you've made today. The room was completely silent. Melissa slowly lowered her head. Judge Harper signed the final order. The petition for custody is denied. He looked at me. Mrs. Morgan, this court finds you to be a fit and loving mother. Then he added one sentence I'll never forget. Children belong with parents who love them, not with relatives who try to replace them without lawful cause. Outside the courthouse, Karen smiled. I told you. Evidence always speaks louder than opinions. That afternoon, I picked Noah up from school. He ran into my arms wearing his backpack and asked, Mom, are we still getting pizza tonight? I smiled through tears. Absolutely. He never knew where I'd been that morning, and I prayed he never would. Looking back now, I don't remember my sister calling me an unfit mother. I remember the moment the judge quietly closed the file and reminded everyone in that courtroom of something I'll carry for the rest of my life. The truth doesn't have to shout when the evidence is already speaking for it.